recyclability labelling. So all of that comes into, how we try to reduce the amount of plastic making its way into, say, those wastewater systems and into freshwater ecosystems as well.
Okay. Thank you, John. And Councillor Lawrence, can I just confirm, are you happy to second the noting of the report?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so anybody else? Everybody happy? Okay, so we'll move on then to consider the report of the public body reporting first mitigation paper B. And back over to you then, John, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall that I suppose this issue about public body reporting has been before them on a number of occasions. I think actually the most recent was a couple of meetings ago when you approved the governance structures for approving of these reports in terms of coming to environmental services and then ratification at council. The climate change reporting body regulations 2024 place reporting duties on specified public bodies under Section 42 of the Climate Change Act, and local authorities, district councils such as Fermanagh and Noma District Council are one of those specified public bodies. Every reporting body then, as set out within the report, must include a statement in respect of each of the 3 preceding financial years of the amounts and sources of the body's greenhouse gas emissions, a statement of the body's proposals and policies for reducing those amounts and other ways for mitigating the effects of climate change on the exercise of its functions, a statement of the timescales for implementing those proposals and policies, and an assessment of the progress made towards implementing the proposals and policies set out in any previous climate change report. Now, under the legislation, the first mitigation report must be prepared and sent to the department not later than the 31st of October, and then there's a cyclical cycle thereafter, 31st of October 2028, and then every 3 years beyond that. The first mitigation report will set the baseline year for greenhouse gas emissions, covering the financial year 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025, and that will be used for assessing and reporting on progress in subsequent reports. This report then, and the attachment in Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, provides our draft response into DAERA. As you'll note within the report, DAERA had hoped to have the online reporting portal available before the end of August, but whenever this paper was being drafted, certainly that portal still wasn't being available. So what you have in front of you as the submission are the raw Excel tables that are based on a previous template, but we don't expect that certainly the content won't be changing, but the format of the actual report may change when it comes to finally submitting it. You'll also note within the report that all councils are awaiting feedback from DAERA on how landfill gas emissions are to be accounted for, because this information has been omitted from the attached greenhouse gas inventory, but we will be calculating it and including it once that further guidance has been provided by DAERA, because as noted within the report, they are currently liaising with the Northern Ireland Environment Agency on how those landfill emissions should be accounted for. So members, I know there's the recommendations then are that you note the contents of the report and approve the submissions of appendices 1 and 2 as Fermanagh and Noma District Council's mitigation report as required under public body reporting regulations by the 31st of October 2025. What I will say is I know they are very detailed appendices. Everything that you're seeing in here has previously been through you, so you'll recall that the Council Environmental Services Committee has been receiving 6 monthly reports on the implementation of our own climate change and sustainable development strategy over the course of the last 4 years, and that really has put us sort of ahead of the curve in terms of being able to comply with this mitigation reporting. So there's no new information from that perspective in here. So it's just because I'm conscious that there is a lot of detail in there, and I suppose the things that are, I'm saying they are new, but it's a good opportunity within the reporting is within Part 6 of the mitigation report, councils are asked to identify examples of good practice. So again, it's been an opportunity for us to celebrate things such as the Fermanagh Lakeland Forum redevelopment and the Passive House. That's part of that. The energy retrofitting that's been done at Oma Leisure Complex, fleet decarbonisation work, and also energy improvement across the council estate. So, members, the recommendations are as I've just set out.
Okay, thank you, John. Councillor Donnelly?
Thank you very much, Chair, and John, thank you very much for that report. I think that it's useful to have opportunities like this where we can actually reinforce and restate the commitment that this council has towards tackling climate change and making sure that we build in sustainability into our institutions and the way that we carry out our operations. So to see the wide breadth of what's being undertaken in pursuit of the green transition that we're carrying out within our own estate is something that's enormously welcome. You'll be glad to know I don't intend to go through line by line each of the appendices, but I suppose there was just one thing I wanted to pick up on, actually, and I appreciate that a lot of this has already been discussed and looked at over the course of the last number of months and years. But just in terms of the fact that the action plan for a lot of what we're doing is going to be refreshed, and we're going to have a fresh look at that in the fourth quarter of 25-26. I just saw that one of the actions was the reinvigoration of a tree planting plan. And I'm just curious at this stage, I appreciate that there's probably going to be further work done on that before it's presented to us, but just given the fact that there's been a significant amount of damage to our estate as a result of storms over the course of the last year, I'm just curious as to whether the extent that has been taken into account or will be taken into account just in terms of whatever plan comes forward. It's just because I know that there's a significant amount of people out there who would like us to see us increase the amount of trees that we're planting and to improve and expand our biodiversity within the district. So just to put that question there, Chair.
I suppose the very short answer would be yes. I suppose just to elaborate slightly, tree planting is an important part of what we do under the biodiversity strategy, but as you said, it's also a mitigation in terms of our climate change and sustainable development. The council, we're mindful of, and the revised draft, well, I think we're going to refer to it going forward as the climate mitigation and adaptation plan, just to ensure that that language is reflected back into everything that we're doing. It will be taking account of the need for tree planting, again, very much in line with that biodiversity strategy around, a focus on native trees. And we have just recently been bidding for and secured some additional funding from DARE, which will be reporting through the members in due course for approval.
Okay, Councillor Cloghery.
Thank you, and this is just for my own information and sort of looking into the future. Oma Leisure Centre is shown as burning propane, and that's producing 193 tonnes, and it's also burning wood chip, which is going to burn 13 tonnes. The wood chip's been changed to natural gas. Is the whole centre been changed to natural gas, and will that massively change that figure?
John, do you want to come in on that?
Chair, yeah, the plan is to change it over to natural gas that is coming from renewable sources. So it should drastically affect what we are currently doing at this point in time.
Okay, if there's... Yes, I was going to say, you're happy to propose Stephen a second, John? Lovely. That's okay. Well, that's everybody happy then. We'll move on. Next is consider report on off-street parking. That's paper C. Back over to you, John News.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Members, you'll see in the report some of the background to this particular paper. So as you'll be familiar, in 2015, following the reform of local government, responsibility for off-street car parking transferred to district councils. So at that time, that resulted in 65 car parks coming under FODC's asset list, which was 39 that transferred across, and 26 that were already within the estate estate. The 39 off-street car parks are listed in the Off-Street Parking Order 2000, which within this report we've referred to as the 2000 Order, and that provides the legislative basis for the management and enforcement of off-street car parks and sets out the powers and regulations that can be enforced by traffic attendants acting on behalf of the council. Following representations from councils, the Department for Infrastructure has signalled its intention to bring forward legislation to remove those provisions of the 2000 Order which apply to district councils, and in so doing this will allow councils to exercise greater control of their off-street car parking estate and implement management measures to meet local need across the respective districts. However, DFI have advised that they will revoke the order as it applies to council-owned car parks, but to do that, they require each of the 11 councils to put in place their own administrative arrangements. So this is something that's a process that has been started at a regional level. Ards and North Down have already been through this process just at the start of the summer. I understand Mid-Ulster are also bringing forward similar proposals to what we have set out tonight. It's very much about being in a state of preparedness. The department have signalled to us that they will not rescind the order, which will then result in more autonomy for district councils until such time as all 11 have their administrative arrangements in place. So the purpose of this report then is really to bring all of the council-owned car parks in under a single order under council control, because at the minute the order only applies to the 39 off-street car parks as they transferred across and doesn't apply to the council's own car parking estate. So a combined order will ultimately allow us to have a consistent approach to the management of our car parking estate right across the district. And it'll give council more power then to vary and amend the operating requirements within each of those car parks, whether that's the maximum durations, tariffs and everything. However, I must stress at this time, this report is not proposing any change at all to tariffs or durations or anything. This is an administrative exercise to allow us to be in a state of readiness that when the department move to rescind the order, that as a council we are not cited as holding up a process at a regional level. The paper sets out what the enactment process would then be, that to deliver against the order, the council, and they said, be subject to ratification at the October meeting of the council, that the council agrees to draft order. There would then be consultation with such persons, such as third parties, as the council considers appropriate. There would be the publication of a public notice in newspapers circulating within the district advising of the order, and signage displayed on the council car parks and the social media channels. There'll then be an opportunity for the council to consider any objections and confirm the order with any amendments as required, and then to confirm and advertise in the local press that the order has been made and the date of implementation. But as I said, that date of implementation will be subject to the department at some point in the future confirming the date of rescinding, and said the order has been drafted in such a way that it would come into effect, at 1 minute after midnight when the 2000 order has been rescinded. So I said that's why we can't give you an implementation date at this point in time, and said but no council can. So members, the recommendations are the council notes the contents of the report and Appendix 1, approves the commencement of an 8-week public consultation process as set out within the report, and note that a further report on the outcome of the public consultation process will be presented to a future meeting of the Environmental Services Committee.
Okay, thank you, John. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose one of the things which I wanted clarified, which I have, is that there will be no changes to how the car parks are managed through this change. We want things to stay as the same and avoid confusion. But what I am a bit confused about is the consultation which is going to be launched. I'm just not sure, what are we actually consulting on if there's no changes being proposed at this stage? So, thank you, Chair.
What the council will be consulting on is it's the draft order as set out within Appendix 1. The draft order simply translates everything in the 2000 order and puts it into a Fermanagh and Omagh District Council off-street car parking order. So at the minute it's a regional Northern Ireland order which the department intend to rescind, and we will need to put in place an appropriate replacement order for this district. So we are consulting on, it's essentially we're consulting on the status quo, but with the change that we have incorporated at this particular point in time is to make sure that everything that's in that draft order aligns with the council's existing bylaws, so no change there. And we have also extended the coverage from the 39 off-street car parks that transferred in 2015 to across the whole council estate, so that will allow the council in the future to adopt a uniform approach across all of its car parks, not just those that transferred in 2015.
Do you want to come back quickly on that?
Yeah, just a quick question. Is that consultation a requirement, or is that something that we've decided to do off our own bat and happy to propose to go for?
Chair, just to clarify, that's a requirement of the process.
You were indicating, councillor. Right, okay, no problem. Are you happy to second it? Anybody? Seconder, councillor Coyle, thank you. Right, so is everybody happy with that now? Yep, you're good. Right, next one is to consider report on estates matters, paper D. Back over to you, John.
Thank you, Chair, members. This is the usual monthly estates report. A number of items for decision in section 2. The first of these relates to lands at Gorchin Village Park. In 2019, the council entered into a nominal rental 25-year lease with Owen Killieu Development Company in respect of lands at Gorchin Village Park. Following a recent review of play area provision within Gorchin, it's proposed to relocate the existing play area to a portion of land which is currently held under lease by ODCL, and there has been discussion and agreement reached with ODCL on the proposal as set out within the report, members. So the development company are willing to surrender a portion of the land within their current lease, as shown within Appendix 1, and it's recommended that the appropriate legal documentation is drawn up to reflect this arrangement and subject to assessment by LPS. Secondly then, and remember this was actually, it was not this particular item, but the wider topic was referenced at the council last night. You'll be aware that there are DFI road widening works underway on the Mountjoy Road, Gorchin Road, and the contractor for DFI, McQuillan's, has requested permission to set up a works compound in the council's lower car park at Lisnelly Avenue for the duration of the contract, which is estimated to be approximately 12 months. So it's recommended that permission be granted and the licence entered into, subject to assessment by LPS. Then a number of applications for memorial benches and plaques at Dublin Road Cemetery, Oma, and Carrybridge Recreation Site in Lisbon. And again, just to confirm that both of those requests are compliant with the council policy. And will be recommended for approval subject to the receipt of the fee of £595 for each. Then members 2.4, there's quite a long list of requests for the use of council property at 2.41 through to 2.49, just given the amount. I won't go through them all individually. Then at 2.5, there's again a similarly long list, 15 requests for retrospective approval for use of council property. That really just reflects kind of usage over the course of the summer. And again, all recommended for approval. That section 3 for information, just 3 denotes the use of council property by 3 groups in Oma and Lisnaskea, and again that's in line with council policy. And then you'll be delighted to hear that I don't intend reading out all 81 sealing of documents that are set out within section 3.2, but they're all recommended for approval. So members, the recommendations are set out within section 9 of the report, that at 9.1 that you approve those items set out, 9.1 through to 6, and then at 9.2 that you note those items set out at 7, at 7 and 8. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, John. If nobody's indicating to come in, can I get a proposer and proposer, please? Councillor Maguire and Councillor Donnelly. Thank you very much. Right. The next report is Community and Wellbeing Directorate Report, and it's the draft response to DERA consultation on the new rules for selling and supplying puppies and kittens, and that's paper E. And over to you, John Boyle. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, in May. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm there now. In May of this year, the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, DERA, published a document setting out a proposal for around a number of items for animal welfare reform. And they have gone out for consultation on the first one of those in relation to the prohibition of the selling, on the proposals, the prohibition of, or the review of dog breeding regulations and the prohibition of third-party pet sales. And like I say, it is the first of a number of consultations that will be coming down the line from DERA in relation to animal welfare. The response from the Council, the draft response is included in Appendix 1. It's quite a detailed response in relation to cats and dogs, mainly about the registration, setting up a registration scheme for cats and for dogs. I suppose in summary of it, the Council have grave concerns in relation to the transfer of functions from central government departments to ourselves without any corresponding budget coming to the councils. And we have seen that on numerous occasions. And like I say, this is the first consultation on quite a number of proposals from DERA in relation to animal welfare. And we would have concern that the financial impact that it will have and the resourcing impact that it will have on officers in trying to deliver such a service. Taking it in bite-sized chunks, the registration schemes for puppies and kittens. So it is envisaged that a registration scheme would be set up for licensing, and there are already, you'll be aware of dog licensing scheme within councils. However, anyone can sell or give away a kitten or a number of kittens, and you know, there is no registration of that. Council would not be adverse to a registration scheme. It does regulate, it will improve the welfare of kittens and of puppies. However, should it be undertaken by council? In the Republic of Ireland, for example, there is a similar scheme which is undertaken centrally by the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine. And what we are proposing in our consultation is that a similar scheme should be either held centrally or be undertaken by a regional charity for the registration of puppies and kittens. It would be a resource on the council, and whilst there would be a fee associated with the registration scheme, and that fee is not specified anywhere in the proposals. It would be up to each individual council to set that fee for themselves. You can imagine what the public out there would say in setting a fee for council, and then council maybe in realising that the fee is not enough, going back out to increase that fee in order to recover full costs. In fact, there is a real liability that we would never recover full costs because we don't know what is exactly involved in the administration of it and in the maintenance of that registration scheme. In fact, the registration scheme in the Republic of Ireland is actually updated every 2 weeks. So you can imagine the administrative effort that is required in order to undertake that. So there's no indication of how the councils would set that. But there's also, with regard to kittens, the nature of cats and kittens. Cats are very mobile. How would you ever regulate the setting up a registration scheme for cats and kittens? And whilst it is good in theory, how would it actually work in practice? And we have provided feedback to DERA in February of this year to say that it would be strongly or would be virtually impossible to enforce those proposed legislative provisions in respect of cats. And if those functions were transferred to council, then the liability for doing that would end with us and would be placed with us. So the roaming and the wandering nature of and behaviour of cats, it would be maybe impossible to identify who the owner was of a cat, and that would lead to problems. Microchipping is not mandatory in here yet, and so therefore it would be impossible to prove pet ownership effectively. And it is the view that at the very least that the registration of cats and kittens should, one, either be excluded from the proposals, or again that the registration should be held centrally by a central department, such as what happens in Southern Ireland. The additional resources, like I say, that would be required to implement and enforce the proposed changes, the direct costs that would be associated with that initially in the initial setup of a registration scheme, and the computer system and whatever that would be required, there is no knowledge of that, and there would be no funding of that in these regulations coming from the department. And it is proposed that the first year of registration in these proposals, that the first year of registration would be free in order to encourage people to register. And therefore, that would be at a total loss to the councils. So I suppose, in essence, there are real difficulties with cats, but it does more so than ever reflect the growing trend whereby central government seeks to devolve enforcement responsibilities to local government without any transfer of resources or powers or legal protections. And it has got to the stage where the council cannot absorb those responsibilities by default, especially where they fall outside of our current role or our current expertise. We have seen, and there is a judicial review going on at the moment in relation to animal welfare, where we are challenging the department in the removal for dogs, and this is further just transfer of functions to the council, and we would strongly send a consultation to say that no, we wouldn't agree to this. And I suppose that is the ethos of the consultation, that response that is included in Appendix 1. So, Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves the draft response in Appendix 1 in relation to the proposed new legislation for selling and supplying puppies and kittens in Northern Ireland. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Councillor McCloughery.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank John for bringing that report. And again, I don't think you're emphasising strong enough the nature of cats. Perhaps if we put in a phrase where some of the officials might like to come down, I could take them to the farmyard, and if they can catch the cats and hold on to them and tag them, they're more than welcome to come along and do it. Whilst they're not feral, they live on the farmyard and they're not handled. It's quite easy that this is somebody who lives in a very domestic setting where they probably have a family pet which lives in the house. But there's enough farmers in this room here to tell you that there's cats out there, and I wouldn't like to be trying to handle the buggers. But I would quite happily let somebody else and watch, because I think it would be quite good sport, because I know who'd win, and the cat would win. Again, I've had a cat appeared there a couple of weeks ago with kittens, and don't know where she's came out of. I had a neighbour saying, had any cats, because they had rats, and if you can catch it, you can keep it. You know, that's the way it works with farmers, and it's totally not practical for this district. And again, we've spoken on this on many occasions. This again is central government dumping on councils without any plan for funding. And we know about the animal cruelty and the way this council was the lead, and that their funding has been slashed. And now here they are again coming up with a madness as such. I can understand the cruelty and not wanting to see people dealing with them, but there's other ways of doing it without this here legislation, especially for cats. I find it hard to believe. I know people have cats. We have a house cat, and he's a much loved animal, and nobody would like to see anything happen to him. But the cats that are outside on the farm are a completely different type of animal, and they're not lovable anyway. But I'm happy to propose. But if we did want to strengthen that line, that the cats definitely is. It isn't well thought out, and I don't think anybody that has anything to do with farm cats has even looked at this legislation.
Thank you, John. Okay, and Councillor Coyle?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to see any cruelty done to any animal at all, but I do think this is a little bit wishy-washy and unrealistic. You know, to register, I know even where I live in Enniskillen, we get stray cats and we feed them. You know, my daughter looks after them and feeds them. I think it would lead to, you know, ridiculous situations. I mean, we have dog breeding facilities here, and there's, you know, plenty of complaints about them as well. And, you know, that's not being dealt with at a proper level, in my opinion, anyway. And I know a lot of people would like to see a lot of changes around that. So to add cats to that is just going to be, you know, it's just ridiculous. You go to a recycling centre and they're all over the, you know, they're all over the place. They're everywhere, and I just don't think it will work. And I will second the proposal, and I'm glad to see that. I think it's really important that anything like this that comes along needs to be the local charities that work with the animals on the ground, that know where to go and look for them, that have got the facilities and that care and love to look after them, and that we can, you know, help fund them. Or it should be done centrally, though. I second the proposal. I think it's a good plan if you're sat in an office somewhere in a city, probably, although there's loads of stray cats in the city as well, so I don't really think it makes any difference. They're everywhere. I just don't think it's it's just not a doable thing. So you know, I support the council's response.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Coyle, and Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think just to reiterate the points made there, it's quite hard to believe, really, that this was brought forward and dumped on councils, really. Something that's so poorly thought out, I suppose. It kind of smacks of disrespect, really, of local governments to expect them to take on such a risk without the appropriate funding. So is this something that we are working collaboratively with other councils to get a coordinated response? I think there's maybe a place for NILGA to be involved in this as well. And we've said that this is number one of many consultations in this area. Is this going to be how all these consultations are going to run? You know, this could become a severe problem if we don't sort of get this right now. So I know you sort of said, John, that this is going to be a severe administrative burden and potentially a financial burden as well. Is there any indication of what we're looking at, or are we sort of just guesswork at this stage on what we're looking at? Thanks, Chair.
Councillor John, do you want to come back on that?
Chair, it certainly would be guesswork at the moment because of the extent of the registration scheme. None of the detail is included in this. This is just proposals that are being put forward in legislation at this point in time. So how much would we bring in income from a registration scheme? We don't know. How much would it cost? We don't know, because it would be a new computer system, it would be new staff, and the administrative burden of this could be very, very substantial. If you are talking about registering all puppies, all kittens from owners who intend to sell them over 6 months of age, it would be very, very substantial. So it would be very much guesswork to put a cost on it at this stage. But there is absolutely no doubt that it would be a financial liability to the council here, another financial liability to the council. I suppose about the coordinated response. We have had discussions with other councils in relation to this. And most of the councils were there in February 2025 when the initial briefing took place at the Department of Agriculture, with officials in the Department of Agriculture. And all of the views are exactly the same as what we are putting forward here, that a registration scheme, especially a registration scheme for kittens, would be impossible to maintain.
Okay, thank you, John. If there's no other comments, we've got a proposer and seconder. Everybody happy with that draft response? Yeah. Could I actually have a 5-minute recess just to deal with something? Could I have a proposer and seconder? Many thanks. Be less than 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay then, folks, if you want to continue. So we're going to be moving on now to consider the report of street naming and numbering paper F. So to John Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, 3 developments for naming. The first one at Milltate, Irvinstown. And the developer's first preference is for Castlewood. It's in the townland of Kerstal Irvine and the surrounding woodlands of Sallyswood. So it is considered to meet the criteria of our policy for the renaming of roads and streets. The second one is development at Mountjoy Forest East in Omagh, and the townland Mountjoy Forest East is quite long, and developers proposed to take the word forest and the word close because of the development is in a cul-de-sac. So it's proposed, and it does meet again our policy. So the name Forest Close. Our third one is at Mullaghmore in Omagh, and whilst the policy states that it's good to use the townland, it is the word Mullaghmore for developments is widely used in the Omagh area, and the developer has put forward a name of Argalin Drive. The residence in this site was known historically as Araglin. And it gives that reference to history of the community itself. So it is proposed that the name Araglin Drive is used for the development. So, Chair, it's recommended that the council approves the 3 road names as set out. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. So do Councillor McCloughery?
Yeah, thank you. I must say the developer has definitely dug deep to pull out that Araglin one. I did know of that house, but I forgot about it. But it's a good connection, and I suppose not no more in Mullaghmore. I'm sure the Omagh councillors will know that that's extensively used on developments in that area already. And the other 2 are the Mountjoy Forest. I wouldn't be too sure of, but the Castlewood definitely fits in, so I'm happy to propose.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry, Stephen. Councillor Donnelly?
No, that's no worries. Actually, I mean, I'm glad John said that, actually, because I'll be honest, it was a word that I actually hadn't heard of before in relation to that particular area. So I suppose, yeah, just the only thing I wanted to, I guess, just get extra confirmation essentially is that is sort of the word that was associated with that residence. I mean, I think there's 2 or 3 Knocknamo estates within that area, including the road. So I think on balance, going with Araglin sort of makes sense if there's that definite connection there. So no, I'm happy enough to support that.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. So we have a proposer and seconder. Is everybody happy? Yeah, lovely. Okay, so we'll move on now to the considered report on street name and numbering dual language paper G. And over to you again, I think, John.
Yeah, Chair. Yeah, the monthly report effectively on dual language. We had 19 street road names which were being assessed. 11 of them met our policy and the criteria. And so therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the council approves the installation of the dual language signs for the roads and streets listed in table 3 of the report.
Thank you, John. Councillor Brown?
Happy to propose, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McArdle? Thanks very much. Can I take it that the unionist councillors are dissenting on this decision? Would you happy if we just mark that? Okay, everybody else happy? Good, okay. So we're moving on now to consider the draft response, on the consultation of the proposed dilapidation bill, paper H. John Boyle again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's a response to the revised dilapidation bill, again introduced to the Assembly by the DAERA Minister. It is the aim of it, and it's a good aim, to tackle the rising issue of dilapidated buildings and neglected sites across the region, and indeed would infer our own district here. It follows on from a consultation in 2016 and provides new powers to district councils, including the service of notices, enforcements and penalties, recovery of costs and so on, that would be onto councils. Like I say, the ethos of the bill is a good one. However, again, I suppose the consultation outlines that there would be concerns again about resourcing of taking on such actions. There are various references to the council carrying out works in default, and therefore leaving the liability with the council in order to try and recover those costs. And you can well imagine that much of that recovery would probably be through the courts. And you can imagine, when you go into that process, what the outcome may or may not be. So again, there is a great greyness, I suppose, in relation to taking on responsibilities, taking on duties that will have, and I have absolutely no doubt, will have a financial liability for the council here. The difficulty of councils to recoup such costs, whether it be from the owner or through the court system, would be quite substantial. There are a lot of greyness, in fact, in the terminology of the wording within the proposals. It talks about detriment to local authority, for example. Whilst that isn't, how is that defined? And it's not defined in the proposal. So what one council could, or what we as a council could infer is detriment to local amenity. If that were to go to a court, a judge could decide something differently. So certainly, there would need to be definitive terms included in the proposals on various terms, such as detriment to the local amenity. And there are various others which we have highlighted in the consultation response. There's also, it places full responsibility on councils. It does need to reference other stakeholders such as the PSNI, DFI Road Service, in order to ensure that all bodies with legislative powers are clear in their role in implementing the legislation, and the proposals are silent in that regard. So I suppose those are the three main aspects on which we would have concerns in relation to the proposals. So therefore, Chair, the detailed consultation, and it is a detailed consultation response, is included in Appendix 1 to the report, and it's recommended that the Council approves the draft consultation as included in Appendix 1.
Okay, thank you, John. And Councillor McCloughery.
Thank you. And I'm not sure, John. I lost the will to read more of these, and this is the third one tonight. And I've scrolled through it quite a few times, and I don't see anything referring to the NAEA built heritage, and I believe that they, as well as the PSNI and DFI Roads, they have a major contribution in this, as there's people who have buildings, they can't sell them on because nobody will take on the burden of the schedule that's on that building, and I'm not seeing anything in that refers to them. And I know we have historic buildings and stuff, but if the person hasn't got the money to do the work, and they can't sell it because nobody wants to buy it because it's going to cost that much money to do it, and they're not coming up with money, and then they try to make it safe. It runs into numerous complications, and there's no reference to that, any way around that guidelines. I couldn't find it anyway, John, and I apologise if it is in there, but I did have a good search through it. Other than that there, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head with all the rest of it, but I couldn't find it, and maybe it is in there, but I lost the will to read every line, and I started flicking, and I do apologise, but it was the third consultation tonight for tonight's meeting.
Yeah, I thought it was in there, to tell you the truth. I will have another detailed read out myself. If it's not, we'll certainly include that their responsibilities also as stakeholders.
And there also needs to be something put into the legislation to allow for emergency. If a piece has to be taken down, it has to be taken down. If there's some sort of work has to be done, it has to be, there has to be some sort of way that they can do emergency repairs, and not at the cost. And I mean, it's not as if they've never made a mistake. I mean, it's quite famously they used the wrong mortar on Derry's walls and had to take the whole tops off again. They put the wrong mix in it. So I mean, they're not beyond making mistakes, but I'm sure they don't publicise them too much. But with that amendment, if it's not there, I'm happy to propose.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, seems to be a bit of a theme emerging in some of these consultation responses, and I suppose I actually like the idea behind this one. I do. I think we do have a problem with dilapidated buildings, especially on our high streets, and I think council could potentially have a role in that for sure. I think that's something we should look at. And I'm somebody that's in favour of taking on more responsibility when it's to the benefit of us and for everyone, for us to take that on. But again, like, this seems to be poorly thought out, I think, in how this is going to operate. There's no details here really, and there's no guidance on what this would actually look like. When would the council have to step in any given situation? That's subjective really. What is a dilapidated building to some person might not be dilapidated to another person, if you know what I mean. Then there's the financial risk to the council. The council having to getting dragged through the courts and all the rest of it. That's not somewhere where we want to be. So if there's financial security, if there's resourcing behind this, then maybe we can look at the details of this. But at the minute, I think it's they need to go back to the drawing board with this and come with something that councils can get behind, I suppose. So I'm happy to second. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. And Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, likewise, I'm more than happy for us to seek clarity on the various outstanding issues that have been identified as part of the consultation response. But I do think it's important that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, in the sense that actually this legislation does represent a real opportunity. I mean, the issue with crumbling buildings and dilapidated buildings, certainly in Oman, certainly in wider parts of the district, has been a long-standing issue and eyesore for many of our constituents. So any efforts to try and make legislative advances so that we can actually empower ourselves to be able to much more strongly deal with that, I think, is to be welcomed. But of course, I have no issue whatsoever with us going back to the department to try and iron out some of those issues that need to be clarified. But I think that any progress that we can make in tackling those dilapidated buildings and helping to improve the regeneration of our urban spaces in particular, I think that that's something to be welcomed, Chair.
Councillor John, you want to come back in?
Sorry, Councillor Robinson put me right. It's Section 12, Clause 17. I don't know how suddenly jumped out at me, but it does say some of the stuff. But I think NAA need to be, they need to be more flexible with the powers that they give back to council, especially in emergency situations.
Right. Okay. So with them comments taken on board on the consultation, is everybody else happy? And did we get a proposer and seconder? We did. Yeah. Sorry. My apologies. Thank you. Right. Moving on then. The next one is So it's a report on unauthorised non-compliant cemetery memorials. Can I, before we go on to this report, request that no information is given out about individual scenarios and cases that are going on at the moment? And if you do want to bring anything up like that specifically about an individual situation, can we wait till we go into confidential, please? But apart from that, I'll pass you over to John News.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, this is a report for information on foot of an earlier discussion earlier this year, back in May of this year. Members had asked for an update on instances of unauthorised and non-compliant headstones and surrounds in council cemeteries. So, members, you'll be aware that council is responsible for 5 municipal cemeteries at Brendrum Cemetery in Enniskillen, Cross Cemetery in Enniskillen, Dublin Road Cemetery in Omagh, Greenhill Cemetery in Omagh, and then Fintona Cemetery. And as noted within the report, there's specific rules and regulations that pertain to each of those cemeteries, and those are published on the council website. So for the information that members then had requested, council staff undertake a range of site-based activities at each of the five municipal cemeteries noted there. That includes activities such as grave openings and reinstatement, grounds maintenance, safety inspections, records verification, and confirmation of interments. As the teams are site-based, they're also ideally located to identify any unauthorised and non-compliant structures. The overall cemetery management system includes arrangements for the purchase of burial rights and plots, registration of undertakers and memorial masons, and dealing with public inquiries. A person with a right of burial or someone acting on their behalf, e.g. an undertaker or a registered stonemason, can submit an application to erect a memorial on their cemetery plot. Those applications are checked for compliance with the site-specific rules and regulations, and that includes things like physical dimensions as well as text and inscriptions. And then the memorials must also be installed to the requisite British standard, that's 8415. And that's really to make sure that any structure is structurally safe and sound and doesn't pose a safety risk to any visitor to the cemetery. And work isn't permitted to commence until written approval has been granted by the council. And again, a copy of that application form is on the council website. The installation of memorials then is undertaken by the plot owner, that's the proprietor of the right of burial, and only memorial masons who are formally registered with the council may undertake this work. That registration process is completed annually and includes submission of appropriate risk assessments and valid and in-date assurances. And I suppose it's important because it's a chance for our staff to engage with the registered stonemasons to make sure that they are aware of the rules and regulations and say things such as the physical dimensions and text that can be installed on those memorials when they're installed. The council carries out approximately 150 interments each year in its 5 municipal cemeteries, and over the course of the last 5 years there have been 3 incidents of unauthorised memorials being erected in council cemeteries. One of those was in Greenhill Cemetery in 2022, which has been resolved, and there have been 2 in Cross Cemetery, one in 2024 and more recently in 2025. Both of those are still ongoing, and in each instance the installation works were undertaken outside normal business hours, typically late in the evening or overnight. So in the event of an unauthorised and non-compliant memorial being constructed in the first instance, we will contact the proprietor of the right of burial, advising them that it's unauthorised, non-compliant, and providing advice on how the situation can be remediated. We will and we do facilitate in-person meetings on site, meetings with the proprietor of the right of burial and with any of their nominated representatives, stonemason, undertaker, and that's very much with a view to reaching a mutually agreed compliant resolution. And say that has been possible in to date in one of the 3 situations. We do, however, recognise that matters associated with cemeteries, graves and memorials are deeply emotive and sensitive for all families who have family members buried within any cemetery. And in each instance, we always strive to make sure that we're engaging with the family in a dignified, respectful and a compassionate manner. That said, council does not tolerate unreasonable, aggressive or threatening behaviour towards the staff or contractors, and regrettably there have been a small number of instances of such unacceptable behaviour and threats towards council staff, and additional control measures have been introduced to reduce those risks in that regard, and on occasions that may involve the police as well. In light of the 3 instances of unauthorised and non-compliant memorials over the last 5 years, officers are investigating a range of options such as the installation of CCTV cameras at Cross and Greenhill cemeteries, and also reviewing access arrangements for vehicles to drive into the burial plot area of cemeteries, and I suppose just distinguish that from the continuing to be the vehicular access to the car parks at both cemeteries, but this is in some of those cemeteries vehicles can actually drive right up to the edge of the burial plot. As noted at the outset of the report, the installation of grave surrounds is permitted in 3 of the council's 5 cemeteries: Fintona, Brendrum and Dublin Road, and council supplied surrounds can also be installed at Cross Cemetery. There has been feedback from local undertakers and families over the course of the last 3 years, which would suggest that there is a growing demand from some families to install ornate surrounds on burial plots in Cross Cemetery. So, members, as I said, the recommendation really is that council notes the contents of the report on unauthorised and non-compliant memorials as requested at the previous meeting in council cemeteries.
Thank you, John. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, John, for that update there. And just to say that this is a sensitive issue, as we all know. Now, it looks to me like we have a problem here with enforcing the council regulations. And the regulations are only as good as far as they are enforceable. That's common sense. It's a small number. There's only 3 cases here, so it's not as if that this is a huge problem. It's a small problem, but it has a big impact. And there are a lot of families who are very, very upset because they have had to go with the rules, just like everybody else. And then it seems like there's one rule for them and another rule for other people. And that's something that sort of compounds the sort of grief maybe that people are feeling associated with the loss of a loved one. That's why we have to get this right. It would be maybe helpful if we talk about some of the specifics later on. I think that would be useful. But just to sort of tease out the issue, so it's an enforcement issue. So what is the strategy for us going forward? I know you talk about CCTV. Okay, that might be useful, but we've got cases now where we've got unauthorised headstones that are in place. How are we going to deal with that? Do the police get involved, or is there legal proceedings being considered? And just to say as well, it's very important that we condemn all the threats against the staff. That's totally unacceptable, and shouldn't be acceptable in any situation. So, but if you can maybe just give us a bit of hope, maybe that there is some way that this can be resolved. Thank you, Chair.
Just going to let John come back in on that quickly. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as the member noted at the outset, it is a very sensitive issue, and certainly that's something that the staff dealing with this seek to have, that there's compassion for all of the families, and I would echo your comments that it's that compassion and sensitivity is for the families who may have installed an unauthorised memorial, recognising their grief, but also recognising the unintended consequences that can also have on other families who have family members buried within those cemeteries. So we recognise that there is hurt and grief on the parts of many people who are involved in the cemetery. So I say that makes it I suppose challenging situation to resolve. The way in which, I suppose, in the first instance, we try to go about resolving that, as I said, we referenced that one of these unauthorised memorials was successfully resolved. It was through dialogue. Certainly, legal recourse is absolutely one of the measures, and we engage, say, with families, with the right of burial, the proprietor of the right of burial, engage with the wider family. We will engage with their representatives, and that may be legal representatives, it may be other representatives. But in the first instance, what we always look to is towards dialogue. But we do and have had recourse to the legal measures as well. But ultimately, as you said, that still requires to be actioned on the ground, and that's where I said some of that dialogue then is also with the families that are involved and their stonemasons. And I say in some instances we will be aware of who the stonemason was who installed the unauthorised memorial. There are actions that we can and have taken against those stonemasons. So if a stonemason has installed an unauthorised memorial and doesn't make it compliant, then they can be removed from the right to work within the council cemeteries, and saying that's something that we have actioned in the past as well. So there are consequences to say the other people who may, or other businesses that may be providing support to these the installation of unauthorised memorials. We also work with say the stonemasons, with undertakers, to come up with alternative design solutions for headstones. And I suppose it is probably worth distinguishing between that. In some instances, it may be around the size of a memorial headstone, and in other instances it may be around the surround on a grave, because I suppose they are two separate issues. The issues in Cross in particular at this point in time relate to surrounds as distinct from headstones. And I say we're aware that I suppose we've seen a growing trend over the last couple of years in terms of requests for ornate headstones within Cross Cemetery. I say there is already a provision for a council supplied surround to be installed within Cross Cemetery as distinct from now, but it's quite a plain. Pardon me, surround. So that's something that's provided for within the rules and regulations. So it is something that there's an opportunity whenever the rules and regulations come up for review, as will happen in 2026, for the council to review that as the type of surround that may be installed in the future. That would be for all users of Cross Cemetery, or all burial plots within Cross Cemetery. But it's about dialogue in the first instance. It's looking at legal recourse where that's necessary, as where a resolution can't be agreed, and then beyond a legal recourse, again, it's about enforcement of the action to make sure that something is compliant with the council's rules and regulations for the particular cemetery.
Okay, thanks, John. Councillor McCloughery.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford had asked me to raise this issue as well, and the Cross Cemetery isn't within my area, but I mean, it's not too many months ago where I was passing on to Director John News that I had met with the Muslim community, and they said how our staff had gone above and beyond to meet their requirements for their burials. So it's not as if we're not a forward-thinking and council when it comes to this matter. But my concerns would be, if we don't know who erected these memorials, and the families are probably very emotive, and whilst they're wants, but there is a contractor coming in here, and they're simply there for the money. It's not a family thing for them. They're there to make money. And whilst we maybe taking them off the list, they might never have been on the list in the first place. But how can these monuments and surrounds, how can they comply if they haven't submitted the paperwork to be approved by the cemetery staff or whoever approves them? They don't meet the standards, and that there's a concern for our staff working in there. If something happens to one of our staff, I think that could be a major issue, and maybe I should be raising this this more so in confidential, but we have a duty of care as a council. So I think we have to be more robust with the actual monument, the people who do I think the correct name is monumental sculptures. Sculptures is the term that a lot of them like to be known as nowadays. If they're coming in and putting that up, if we have CCT and footage in place, I think we should be sending them a letter that this doesn't comply, and telling them, for every day that you leave that there, then we will be seeking some sort of financial burden on you. So there's no profit in it for them until they remove it. And I know I had an issue many years ago with something I have a public right of way, and there was an incident on, and somebody wanted to put a monument on it, and I just simply told the contractor who arrived with it, I said, that's my land, you can't put that there. And I says, if I'm cutting hedges or cutting the grass for edges, and that goes through my machine, who's going to pay for it? And he put it back in his van and took it away with him. So I think if you're going to hit anybody, the families are obviously too distressed, and they have it in their head what they want to do. But we have rules, and they have to abide by the rules, and we have to have duty of care on our staff.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what a lot of what has been said, but you did say that there has been an ongoing trend in recent times, and I'm just wondering if we need to wait until 2026 for a review. You know, this isn't the first time these issues have come up. I remember very similar situations, you know, 10, 12 years ago, or whenever it was, you know, and so maybe we need to have, I suppose, in the first instance, a workshop with yourselves and all the councillors, not just this committee, but all the councillors. And I suppose I don't know what you're you know, I'm not sure what monuments have been put up. I didn't really want to know before I come to this meeting. So, you know, is it the height? Is it the colour? Is it surrounds? Is it this? Is it that? But all that. And then if you're going to fine people, that needs to be in the policy as well. So you can't just pick a fine out of the air. You know, it would have to be in line with policy. So maybe it is time to look at, you know, having some kind of workshop and review of the policy before 2026, if there is an ongoing trend going on, and, you know, that we're going to come across this again and maybe again before that's done for next year. You know, if we've had 2 already in a year, then we're obviously going to have probably another 2 in the coming months, maybe not. But, you know, that if you're saying there's an ongoing trend, then there possibly could be more. So maybe looking at getting that changed, not because I want to see people fined, by the way, but just so that there's that all the councillors know what all the rules and regulations around cemeteries are, what people are allowed, what they're not. And I think it's not just the family involved in that particular plot either. It's the surrounding graves and the families that they belong to as well. So, you know, maybe it's something we need to look at a little bit, you know, sooner than what we was going to originally done. And I propose that we do that.
Okay, Councillor. Just back to John to some clarification on them.
So it was just to clarify for the member, it had been one unauthorised memorial in each of the last 2 years rather than 2 in the last year. And I suppose my comment about a growing trend is that I suppose with 150 interments across the council each year, the majority of those, the overwhelming majority of those, would be within Cross Cemetery and Greenhill Cemetery. And what we're saying is that there are more families, but still a small number, but more families coming forward who are making inquiries about can they install ornate. So in the overwhelming majority of those instances, when it's explained to the family, or the monument sculptor has explained to the family, these are the current rules and regulations, families will accept that and they install something that's compliant with the current rules and regulations. And I suppose that's where there may be scope, and say happy to take on board the proposal or the comments about a workshop maybe to take members through the detail of what the rules and regulations are, because they are unique for each of the 5 cemeteries. I suppose recognising that those certainly the older cemeteries, the likes of Fenton, Dublin Road and Brendrum, I mean, they're all effectively, they are closed cemeteries now insofar as there are no more available plots. So it's the only right of interment would be on plot holders or plot owners who have existing capacity. And I mean, again, some of those older cemeteries will have ornate surrounds. So again, it's something that can be discussed through a workshop with members. Obviously, those things then come with impacts in terms of when in those other cemeteries, it's the family that then are responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep of the plot, whereas under the current arrangements, it's the council who do that maintenance and upkeep of the work. But I say those are things certainly that we can certainly tease out with members through. I think, as you say, a workshop would maybe be a productive way forward.
Okay, thank you, John. Just need then, if everyone else is happy, with a proposer and seconder. Just a note. Debbie and Councillor Brough, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Brough, will you also second the proposal for the workshop that Councillor Coyle suggested? Yeah, thank you. Okay, moving on then. Just the next item is just to note the report of the Director of Environment Place, Paper J. John again.
Apologies, Chair, I had flicked forward too far. Yeah, this is just a Director's report, number of items for members to note for information. The first is in terms of Environmental Service Committee actions over the preceding quarter, that's April to June. So 84% of those complete, 16% ongoing. That represents 4 actions that are still ongoing, making progress with those. At section 2.2, the quarterly statistics from the DAERA on the Northern Ireland Local Authority collected municipal waste. Again, members, this is it's the standing quarterly report that comes, so the format of the information will be broadly familiar to you. As you'll note within the report, proportion of waste is reflective of the population. There's a seasonal variation in terms of the quantities of waste collected. What I would particularly draw your attention to is that in Fermanagh and Omagh, that in this the quarter under consideration, recycling had increased to 48.4% compared to 43.8% in the same period in 23-24, and really that's reflective of the positive development at the end of 2024 of the closure of Drumee landfill. So we have seen an increase in the boost in the recycling rates across the district, and that's also then reflected in the increase in energy from waste. Energy recovery increased to over 41% from what was previously 17%. And again, just to note then some of the other developments that are in train, which we will also see as contributing to increased recycling rates across the district over the next number of years. And that includes the planned rollout of the 240 litre brown bins to the whole district. And as I mentioned there, the closure of Drumee, and 2.3 members had asked for an update on work at Ecclesville Pond, just following the concerns about algal blooms in the pond. Our inspection confirmed that there was no algae blooms present, but there was broadleaf and Canadian pondweed. So there's been previous evidence of smooth newts, which are a species protected under the Wildlife Order 2002, and therefore any clearance and management works have to be scheduled to take place once the surveys have been completed. Those can only be done in the period March to June, so that's now scheduled to take place in early 2026. And then the pondweed because it has created the appearance of a solid surface, and that might present a health and safety risk. We've installed some temporary fencing around the pond, and we say we are investigating longer term management options. So recommendations, members, are that Council notes the update on the Environment and Services Committee actions, the Northern Ireland Local Authority collected municipal waste statistics, and Egglesville Pond.
Okay, thanks, John. Can I have, sorry, Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to note the update there. Just a wee question on the brown bins, the big 240 litres. What's the timescale for the rollout of them brown bins? Thank you.
Sure, we're bringing forward the appropriate decision-making documentation. So obviously that involves development of a business case, and we hope to bring that forward to members as soon as possible. There's then a lead time, obviously, once the business case is approved, they need to be ordered. We're putting arrangements in place for those bins then to be distributed across the district. It will be into 26, into the 2026 calendar year, and realistically, I would say we're probably looking into the certainly the middle or end of the 2026-2027 financial year. So certainly in the period of the next financial year that's what we're working towards at the minute. But it's subject to our normal investment decision making processes.
Okay, thank you, John. Can I get a seconder to note? Councillor Robinson, thank you. Just moving on, just to note the next one. Just to note the report on the building control and licensing. Proposer to note, Councillor Brown, Councillor Robinson, thank you. We've got a number of items of correspondence. There's 4 altogether, is that correct? Could I get a proposer and seconder, assuming everyone's seen it, for all 4? Councillor Brough and Councillor Feely.
Yeah, thanks. I'll second it. I'll second Elaine's proposing. I just want to welcome some of them letters. I'm glad to see some of them speed limits coming in, especially that one in Derrygonney. I would have been lobbying for that for a while, so I'm just glad to see it and just happy to second.
Okay. So, Councillor Robinson.
Hollybroom Road Tower is not in our area. It's in Mid-Ulster.
Sure, I did look at that on the map as well, and I wondered, was there an anomaly that maybe the end of that road enters the district, but certainly the portion of land that's shown on the map, that was my thought was exactly that looks like it's Mid-Ulster, but I'm not 100% familiar with where the actual boundary line is in Clogher. So I just wondered whether maybe the far end of the Tullybroom Road came into the district, but I did wonder about that. But I say it's the note anyway, if I remember. So it's
okay. Just moving on to following items of correspondence from the Environment Agency, 8.2.1 and 8.2.2. With any, Councillor Feely?
Yeah, happy to propose that.
Are you happy to propose them too?
Yeah.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Brough, thank you. Again, correspondence from the Department of Health regarding vaping products. Can I get proposed to talk? Councillor Robinson, thank you. And seconder? Seconder, anyone? Councillor Coyle, thank you. And to note correspondence 8.4 from BT regarding the decision on the payphone telephony removals or phone boxes, I would say. Proposer to note, Councillor Maguire, Councillor Hawkes to second. Thank you. Okay. I haven't had anyone previously for any urgent and relevant business, so we'll move on then. Can I get a proposer and second to go into confidential? Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Feely. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So just to have a summary of the things discussed in confidential, John, news.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, while in confidential business, members considered a report on a number of the state's matters and approved the recommendations as set out within the paper. Members also considered an item of AOB relating to cemeteries and agreed a way forward, as previously also discussed in open business earlier this evening. And members also received an update on the installation of information panels at Fermanagh Lakeland Forum as part of the redevelopment project.
Okay, thank you, John. That's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much. Safe home, everybody. Oh, apologies. Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor Brown, seconder. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Safe home.